Hey guys, in today's video, I'll be covering the latest updates. Today, we saw such a big bloodbath. In fact, this has been one of the worst days of the stock market, underperforming since 2020, nearly 5 years ago. We've never had a day where we had about $4 trillion wiped out from like the Mag 7, the entire stock market. Now, what's interesting is that even though Bitcoin, we saw Bitcoin run up to 88,000 before the Trump announcement on Liberation Day, it dropped from 88,000 to 82,000. However, we're seeing Bitcoin climb up even though we have such a bad day. What is that telling us? People are really getting exhausted from Wall Street and may perhaps be allocating towards risk on assets. I think the whole entire world is beginning to see the value of Bitcoin as the digital commodity asset here. In fact, we also see gold climbing up as well. However, through the course of many years, I do foresee Bitcoin bypassing gold at one point. Now, in today's video, I'll also be covering technical analysis of Bitcoin, MicroStrategy, as well as the big three Bitcoin miners, as well as sharing with you the latest updates around what we're seeing on social media, on X, as well as production numbers with the Bitcoin miners. Now, if you're new to this channel, first off, I would really appreciate hitting the like, subscribing. Let's begin, guys. We're looking at the technicals of Bitcoin. Obviously, we know that Bitcoin tends to outperform when it's in the bull cycle for 3 consistent years. In fact, 2023, 2024 were positive years. In fact, 2025, we've seen underperforming Q1. We haven't seen an underperforming Q1 for many years now. And this is the first time we've seen this in Q1, having Bitcoin price retrace down. Now that's different though, in that Bitcoin price, I mean, it reached this all-time high of like, 108,000. But what we're seeing based on technicals is since the prior resistance reaching an all-time high of 108,000, Bitcoin is just hovering, it's retracing, it's consolidating in this bull flag here. And I think it's only a matter of time where we're just going to see that U shape pick back up. In fact, we saw Bitcoin get down to about 76,000, but what I'm seeing since, early March is that we're seeing Bitcoin consolidate around this 82,000. We see a lot of support around 82,000. We've also seen it, jump back up to like at one point during that Trump news, 94,000. And it dumped right after when Wall Street opened on that week. However, we're beginning to see, consistent 88,000, 82,000. So we are seeing a support here at 82,000. In fact, that's not bad at all. I mean, 82,000. I mean, we reached 82,000 as the, you know, prior resistance back in like November 11th. But as we scale out now over the course of time, reaching 109,000 down to 82,000, not bad because we're seeing Bitcoin coil up here. I do think that even though we have all of these tariff news, uncertainty, Wall Street can very well continue to go down. But when we look at risk on assets, Bitcoin may very well accelerate. We see here a sea of red. I mean, Mag 7s here. Yeah, Microsoft, Google, Apple took a beating. Why? I mean, most of the manufacturing that's done right now is based out in like China and Taiwan, and that's really causing Apple prices to drop significantly here through the tariffs that are imposed around all the countries with the minimum of 10%. But when you look at like tariffs on China, which is where Apple is based out of, that's going to cause a lot of the tariffs applied to exports of the manufactured products that Apple owns to the United States. When you think about it, America is the experimentation country. We are the consumers of the world. We buy up mostly every global product there is. In fact, when you buy clothes, technology, it'd be very surprising to see made in the United States. So all of this has to change in order for us to be a strong country here. And I think that we're only going to see the American people bringing jobs back to the United States. That's only going to allow for the United States to dominate in the long-term course here. But I think overall, yes, we do see market uncertainty. This has been a global restructuring with how we look at the overall tariff sector here. But I think over the course of long term, we will see golden era kick in here, and that's gonna drive up, Bitcoin prices. What's interesting is Michael Saylor, he posts this here. There are no tariffs on Bitcoin. Just take a moment to think about that. No tariffs on Bitcoin. Bitcoin doesn't really need people. People need Bitcoin all around the world. People love Bitcoin. Bitcoin doesn't need the government. Bitcoin doesn't need private sectors, companies. We all, as humans, we depend on this digital asset that was developed by Satoshi. So that's interesting in that there's no tariffs. And that's why people really like this risk on assets, especially when there's all this market uncertainty. So we're beginning to see Bitcoin viewed as like a more stable type of investment, even though we see fluctuations go on. But it's until we start seeing more stability with Bitcoin, that's where we'll see bigger whales investing. Michael Saylor posts this interesting visual here. Bitcoin makes you the most interesting. In fact, MSTR in terms of market cap open interest, 91% compared to the Mag 7 here. Yes, you have Tesla in second place, but you see a plateauing effect here with like Meta, Nvidia, Google, Amazon, Apple, Microsoft. We hear a lot about these companies. In fact, we, depend on these companies in order to live our normal lives here. But now I think the story is shifting in that people are getting more and more interested on what Bitcoin can really do. And with market uncertainty around tariffs, that may very well start shifting all of the money inflows into MSTR. And we heard recently Fidelity now allows for the consumers to invest in their IRA accounts, 401k. So that's a big time shift here where we're going to just see more and more money inflows into Bitcoin. And what does that mean? Price of Bitcoin is going to go up. Stock price of MSTR is going to go up as well. Vivek posts an interesting take here. Michael Saylor asks GameStop CEO to buy the Bitcoin dip with their $6 billion in cash. So it's coming. Ryan Cohen here, he just notes, these tariffs are turning me into a dem. And then Michael Saylor responds, Bitcoin is on sale, Ryan. So what's interesting is Ryan, he just increased his GameStop stake to about 8.4%. He's buying up his own company's stocks right now, GameStop. Why? We always hear the saying, buy the rumors, sell the news. He's buying up his own GameStop stocks right now in anticipation of hodling up Bitcoin very soon here. Here, Fidelity launches that retirement plan allowing direct investment in Bitcoin. This is definitely massive news. We're only going to see a lot more conviction with Bitcoin investments here. So this is really going to change the dynamics for how we look at retirement funds as well. And Bitcoin price is just going to keep going up. Let's talk about technicals now. MicroStrategy here, we had a big beat down here. It dropped by about 9.6% today. Now it's gone back down to the sub 300s, now hovering at $286. Most of you are wondering, are we going to continue to see it go down? We may very well see it, even go down below 250 or sub 250, but it'll be interesting to see how the markets play out. I do think that the stock market may very well continue to go down with all of the news that had happened today with the market fears, uncertainty. However, what we saw is that, with the support at 225 basement low back in March, we're beginning to see price action, market participants taking the price action up to the prior resistance that we saw around that 340 range. So it'll be interesting to see whether we can see that price action move up to that 340 range and have that hover around this line here where the prior resistance flips to become the support line. That's where we'll start seeing consolidation, which is what we want to see, that cup and handle form. And then eventually we'll see MSTR price have that potential to get back up into the $400 range. Obviously, this is going to be all attributed to relative strength increasing with signs of MACD changes and volume increases, but you never know right now in Wall Street, there's a lot of market uncertainty, so we may very well continue to see price either, go down or just hover with the plateauing effect below 300s. But hopefully we can continue to see market participants take the price action up for MSTR here. We're looking at the big three miners here. So we're looking at MARA, Riot, and CleanSpark. So, with CleanSpark, just based on the last couple of weeks of just trading here, we see CleanSpark down 30%, Riot down 41%, MARA down 41% based on this range here, from like February 8th onward. In fact, with the right range time point, in fact, it's even down by more. But what does this mean? Financial institutions are shaking out all the retails, buying up all of the retail stocks that are owned because retail is taking a loss, selling their stocks. And what does that mean? That allows for financial institutions to increase their number of shares, whether it's MARA, Riot, CleanSpark. With MARA right now being at like $11, that's definitely a steal. I don't think it's going to go down any further than that. With Riot around low $7, CleanSpark low $7. All these stock share price at one point, CleanSpark $23. Not too long ago, a couple of weeks ago, Riot was hovering around $14, $15. MARA back in November, $30. So we're at that basement low. Obviously, we've seen relative strength here, drop below 20, 17. I mean, that's never to be seen before. But what goes down will eventually go back up. And we know Bitcoin is in a bull cycle. I don't think it's going to end yet. We may very well see Bitcoin start priming for a big time shooting up here. Tom Lee, he's even forecasting around 180 to $200,000. You never know. It's possible for Bitcoin to just break out, and when it does, these miners are just going to shoot up. It's not really timing the market, but it's time in the market because a lot of these stocks they run up very fast, similar to what we saw during COVID. I mean, MARA, Riot, CleanSpark were in single digits at one point, shot all the way up to like $80. So the question is, can it happen? I'm gonna rule out that it's possible, although unlikely, but it's possible. So we can't say that it's never going to happen. With that, I want to cover the latest updates with the recent updates that MARA announced. So today they announced that from March production numbers, they were able to mine 829 Bitcoins with 242 blocks won. That equates to close to 26.8 Bitcoins produced per day. So you think about it, every hour, Mara is mining more than one Bitcoin. And share of available miner rewards 5.8% with a 1.3% transaction fees with an energized hash rate of 54.3, leading industry right now with the most hash rate. But they will continue to increase and ramp up that hash rate as well. Here we have Riot announcing their production numbers. So definitely an increase from what they announced last month. So definitely an increase here with consistent Bitcoin mining production, 533 Bitcoins mined in March with 17.2 Bitcoins mined per day. So, this number is lower than MARA, and that's attributed to the deployed hash rate, right? You have like what, 53 exahash compared to 33.7 exahash. But overall, definitely consistent numbers, being able to ramp up the month over month improvements. So definitely great numbers here. And you see Bitcoin Hell getting close to that 20,000 threshold. So, you know, any next 2 months, that's going to put them over $20,000. That's a big time psychological barrier to accomplish here, and all in power costs of 3.8 here. So definitely some great updates here, even though we see so much volatility with the miners. But I think overall price action, we're going to see these miners kick in. And with CleanSpark, I'm expecting that we're going to get some updates on the monthly production for tomorrow. But just based on what CleanSpark has been mining per day, it seems like they're gonna announce something to the effect of like over 700 Bitcoins mined. So definitely, CleanSpark is doing well when it comes to consistent Bitcoin mining production with an increase in hash rate as well as improved fleet efficiency with joules per terahash. With that, I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what your thoughts are, how you're feeling with this big time Wall Street market uncertainty. Where do you think Bitcoin price is going to go along with MicroStrategy and the big three Bitcoin miners? Are you buying, selling, or holding? Thanks, guys. Let me know where you're watching from, what your thoughts are after watching this video, and thank you for your support.